Good, good, good. All right, so I got a couple things set up. I wanted to do a PowerPoint presentation, however, we were told that the overhead is no longer here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off of the information I have. I'll be able to send off the presentation if you want to check it out for yourselves later on. And right now, Axel is going to hand out a piece of paper to each individual. This is for a prize that you may be able to win afterwards. There's going to be 3 prizes. So you just got to write your name and put it in and give it back to Sal to put it in the green bag. And then that'll make you eligible for the prize. Pamphlets here I'm going to hand out.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, someone came behind me.
Okay, that's great. All right, so basically, we're living in a time where there's a lot of sickness going around, a lot of fear regarding how we can get healthy, how we can keep ourselves.
Sorry guys, can you guys?
So I was saying, I know this time right now there's a lot of fear going around dealing with health and how to keep ourselves well. And there's a lot of sickness going around that we may not have the understanding of how to deal with. I myself, over the last several years, have been dealing with different health issues, and I've developed a lot of knowledge through my research and also taking courses in regards to herbalism and just looking around and understanding. Especially I had a trip to South America that also helped me. I spent 2 months there beginning of COVID in 2020. And I was learning a lot from how they keep themselves healthy. And I think it's very important that we at least develop the understanding of what we can use naturally so that when we're put in a position where we no longer have these doctors available, that we're going to keep ourselves healthy at all times. All right, so again, I'll post the PDF in the chat, and then you guys can check it out. So, if someone wishes for good health, one must first ask oneself if he is ready to do away with the reason for his illness. Only then it is possible to help him. So, a lot of the times we're still attached to our sickness because we haven't decided that we're no longer going to hold an attachment to it. For instance, when we go to the doctor, they instantly tell you, oh, you have this disease, and for the rest of your life you go on saying, oh, I have this, my doctor said I have that. And even by just telling yourself that repetitively, you're also allowing that disease to manifest and to sustain. So one thing I've learned to do is to separate whatever sickness I may believe I have, and I don't tell myself I have it. Sometimes before I go to bed, I say, I'm healthy, I'm well, I'm happy, I'm smart, I'm beautiful, you got to talk to yourself in a way that allows your body to receive the healing, because everywhere you look, you just make a Google search and immediately you're going to see, if you make a search, say, I have a pain in my right arm, it's going to say, oh, you probably have cancer or a deficiency in this area. And then it automatically sparks a negative thought, which leads down a road of, that's essentially also where sickness comes from, is our belief in it. So we got to detach ourselves from these negative thoughts. So the title of this lesson is actually Breakdown of the Body Through Synthetic Drugs, Carcinogens, and Parasites. So what led me to learn about plant medicine? From an early age, about 6 or 7, I would have asthma attacks, yearly hospital visits for chronic asthma. I saw many specialists that tried to help. Even I went to a specialist and they took blood tests. I think I was about 7 or 8. And all I could see at the time was parasites in the bloodstream. And at the time I had no idea how they got there or how to fix it, but I knew that there was something wrong from a very long time. So I also had spontaneous skin eruptions that were violent, and I was dependent on inhalers and steroid creams for many years. So in 2014, around the time I came to the truth, I was unable to work for several years. I was unable to get out of bed. I didn't even have enough energy to go to the washroom. I was unable to stand for more than 5 minutes without being in excruciating pain. My shoe size went from a 10 to 11.5 as a result of the swelling in my feet. I was almost completely bedridden for months at a time. I could not bend my arms or my legs. It actually got to the point where I would be afraid to go to sleep because I knew I would wake up with so much pain, and it would just be the most it's just a feeling you never want to have. So I couldn't exercise. I couldn't be around people without getting immediately sick and dehydrated. And everything I ate made me sick and made the pain worse, and that's when I went vegan, and that also made things worse because it wasn't actually fixing the problem. And excessive cold sweats at night, and this essentially led to more insecurities, and basically your immune system, when it breaks down, it also affects your mind and your emotions. So it was just a state that I don't think anyone wants to be in. So things that encourage sickness. So this is a list that I've comprised. It's not limited to this, but GMO food, MSG, artificial sweeteners, glyphosate, unforgiveness, anger, fear, negative thoughts, drinking, smoking, vaping, indoor air pollution, generic soap, laundry detergents, deodorants, moisturizers, infections from various parasites like malaria, lice, scabies, Ebola. These are all different parasites that people can be infected with. And apparently malaria is the #1 parasite that actually kills people throughout the world. I think that's the top killer right now. Eating too much processed food, using too much technology, air pollution, living a stagnant lifestyle, so not moving, exercising, or walking. Medical procedures, all pharmacia drugs, vaccines, inhalers, steroid creams, Advil, Tylenol, Percocets, Ritalin, antibiotics, sleep medication, chemotherapy, CAT scans, dialysis, pain meds, invasive blood tests that steals your blood. So I know there's a big thing going around right now where people are talking about an anemia deficiency. So we gotta look and see where that comes from. So anemia, if you understand what it is, it's basically you do not have enough red blood cells to carry oxygen throughout the rest of your body. So I believe, and I actually came to the conclusion about this a couple weeks ago, from the time we were children, every time you would go to the doctor, what would they do? They'd take a blood test. So what they're doing over time is actually depleting your life source. They're taking one of the most valuable items in your body, and they're depleting it slowly over time to where eventually you don't have enough blood supply to take on whatever sicknesses is in the body, right? So we got to be careful about just even taking a blood test. So statistics from the CDC website says that as many as 9 in 10 adults with chronic kidney disease do not know they have it. When people develop chronic kidney disease, their kidneys become damaged and over time may not clean the blood as well. If the kidneys do not work well, toxic waste and extra fluid accumulate in the body and may lead to high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, and early death. And it is said that our people are more likely by 50%
to have a high blood pressure problem or kidney disease than Caucasian people. So it's something that obviously affects our people much greater. So what is the importance of cleansing the blood? So in order for the body to function properly, the blood must be kept clean. And our life force resides in the bloodstream, and the quality is determined by our ability to detoxify and maintain a balanced state. So the blood can be altered by vaccines, heavy metals, toxicity, outdoor air pollution, emotional stress, pharmaceutical drugs, infections, and parasites. So Leviticus 17:11 says, "For it is the life of all flesh, the blood of it is for the life thereof." So we know from even ancient days that having a healthy body and immune system was basically you could only have a healthy immune system or body if your bloodstream was clean. So this is why certain purification practices were put into place, and drinking herbs regularly to keep the bloodstream clean. Because the moment your blood becomes infected, that's when toxins can go throughout the rest of your body, from the brain to your toes. And right now, everything they're putting in the environment directly harms the blood, and it can cause either the blood to become too thick where it's not moving freely, or it can become too disturbed to where it's violently moving. That would be from a term in which I've learned from traditional Chinese medicine. So basically, they understand that the body needs to be in perfect harmony. So everything we're eating affects the way our bodies is going to feel. So the kidneys, in my opinion, is one of the most important organs that we have to address. Not only because our people are suffering the most from kidney damage, but also because the kidneys is where the emotion of fear is stored. So if you just look around in our communities, there tends to be a lot of dark emotions that people are they're just holding on to, and they haven't found a way to overcome these negative emotions. So every organ is important. However, we must take extra time to cleanse the kidneys regularly. The kidneys regulate water balance in the body and are weakened by the emotion of fear in our lives. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is keeping your channels of elimination clean at all times and open. So if the body has a lot of toxins that are not released, then consuming more plant foods will often make the symptoms worse. Depending on the level of toxicity, basic treatments such as occasional herbal tea and vegetables will not suffice. In this case, we must detoxify the colon and avoid the foods that feed yeast. The health of the body can be determined by the health of the digestive system. So the next slide, toxins from air pollution. They can lead to epilepsy, bipolar disorder, Parkinson's disease, memory loss, schizophrenia, depression, asthma attacks, and skin flare-ups. So I know there's a lot of people who got sick over the last 3 weeks, and what's something that we all have in common? We're breathing the same air. You go outside and you're exposed to chemtrails. So what they're putting in these chemtrails are heavy metals. They're putting in, a friend told me he believes they put in parasites in them. And these are things we're constantly breathing in, and they're actually on our skin. So they really don't leave the skin. Once they get there, they kind of just form a toxic layer. And over time, these toxins will actually filter into your organs, because your skin is the largest organ. And when it when it seeps through the skin into these organs, then more damage occurs, and eventually it leads to a sickness or something even worse than that. So autointoxication. So has anyone heard of autointoxication before? No? All right, autointoxication is an ancient theory based on the belief that intestinal waste products can poison the body and are a major contributor to many, if not all, diseases. So what causes autointoxication? So many of us can be holding over 10 pounds of waste in our colon for decades. This buildup eventually leads to chronic inflammation and unwanted bacteria overgrowth. Glyphosate is also a factor as the body is unable to excrete it in most cases. So what they're doing is they're synthesizing these chemicals in a laboratory that are not made to break down in the body. Once they get into your body, they can be stored there for decades and possibly even 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So this is why a lot of people are having digestive issues, irritable bowel syndrome, and all these things, because we have chemicals in the system that don't belong there, and the body also does not know how to get rid of it. So how do I prevent autointoxication? So detoxify the colon on a regular basis. Purify the blood. I can't stress this enough. Several water flushes a week may be necessary to restore one's health. For chronic illnesses, some doctors recommend colon flushes several times a day. And in chronic situations, coffee enemas and herbal enemas can be used to increase glutathione production by up to 600%. So glutathione is your master antioxidant. And I did test a couple years ago, and mine was down to basically 0. So I wasn't able to detoxify anything. So that pretty much explained why I was getting sick consistently, and nothing I ate was making me any better, because if your body can't detox, adding more food or more herbs or anything is you're just putting fuel to the fire. You have to purge the body of these toxins and allow the body to heal. But this can take some time. So one thing that I've learned over the last 7 years since I've gone through the health crisis is that prevention is better than cure. Oftentimes we want to just run to the doctor when something goes wrong. This is a big mistake. We need to be eating to live. So that means every day we should be incorporating foods or herbs that actually cleanse the blood and keep the body healthy. And this isn't that hard. Simply, we need to know what herbs we can use. And also, what I tend to do is every day, first thing in the morning, I'll start with a glass of water, and a warm glass of water and some lemon possibly. And before I eat every meal, I take my herbal tea so that whatever I eat can be neutralized, so that I'm not allowing toxins to build up over time. So throughout the day, I may have 2 or 3 teas that are blood cleansing, that are killing the parasites, that are getting rid of the heavy metals, that are also helping with stress, because every day we're exposed to new stressors, and we need to be constantly cleansing. This is something that doesn't just happen once a year or once a month. With the amount of toxins we're exposed to, we should be cleansing, even just a basic cleanse, which could be just taking a tea at least possibly once a day if you're not fasting. That's my recommendation. So how do we increase our well-being? So we need more laughter, exercise, meaningful relationships, music and joy, being artistic. We need to be thinking positive all the time. Prayer, fasting, and good nutrition. I can't stress enough how much having the right mindset comes into play when we're healing the body. Anytime we're dealing with a sickness, we have to consider our thoughts and the emotions we're putting behind getting better, because it does have a direct effect on if we're going to get better or not. So, the next slide. Do not fear symptoms. The reason I say do not fear symptoms is because it means your body is working. The organs indicate areas of distress that need your attention. And we should remember, for every disease that exists, the Most High has given us plans to remedy the exact ailment. So there is nothing that we are dealing with that hasn't been dealt with at some point in the past, and that can't be fixed with the help of plants, prayer, and fasting. I've seen the most breakthroughs when I combine herbal teas, colon detoxification, and fasting. Fasting is essential. 1, 2, 3 day dry fast, if you guys can do it, I highly suggest. So the process, when you begin to detoxify, you may feel worse during a cleanse. You may experience slight discomfort, breakouts, and noticeable fatigue as the filters begin to push the toxins out of your system. You must be patient. It will get better, but you must continue to push through. All pharmaceuticals will bring you back to stage 1. In my opinion, we must avoid them at all costs as they are only designed to lead to a greater problem down the road. If you require surgery or severe procedures, they can be valuable, but proceed with caution. The window for pharmaceutical treatment is closing fast. Hospitals will expect patients to be fully vaccinated to receive treatment. But all is well. Plants have the most effective antibiotics and the remedies for high blood pressure without the side effects. So, Ecclesiasticus 38:4 says, "The Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them." I remember before I started my healing journey, I was looking for anything I could get my hands on. And literally one day I was just searching online and I heard about this one mushroom. It's like you can basically de-age yourself. You can literally age in reverse. And I was like, wait a minute, that's something I need right now because this is crazy. So I just bought the product. It was, a reputable source, but I had enough faith to trust in something that I've never had access to before, and also no one told me about it. So it was just like an intuition to where I was just doing some searching, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but it's plant medicine. Let me see how it works on my body. And from whatever I received, it was chaga. That's what I tried, if anyone wants to know. But because my body was so toxic at the time, when I took it, the transformation, I could see it literally within like hours. Like it was so quick that I just saw myself. It was actually scary because I saw such a quick change in my appearance, a quick change in basically how I looked in the mirror, my skin, and it was just almost immediate. And I was like, wow, there must be something to this. So I decided to keep doing my research, keep looking further, and eventually I just never stopped. So my tips for great health. So we must avoid drinking cold drinks. We should drink warm or room temperature drinks. Does anyone know why? Well, yeah, our bodies require warm foods for proper digestion. Anything too cold will harm the digestive process. Anything too hot will also will harm the digestive process. When I say too hot, I'm referring to like certain spices. If you eat too many hot spices, that can also cause sickness in the body. So what we're looking for is balance. Nothing too hot, nothing too cold.
Does that go into water too? Because I seen a study that came out recently talking about the importance of drinking room temperature water.
Yes. So I always make sure it's at least room temperature, but I prefer warm. And this is what I also learned from a gentleman that I met in Guyana when he was, he actually helped me. I got a skin parasite in Guyana when I went 2 years ago, and I met this gentleman. Actually, my granddad introduced me to him, and literally his whole life was just going to the bush, grabbing herbs, coming home and selling the herbs. That's it. And he lived in a little shack off the side of the road. And what I found amazing is that, I was kind of uncertain if I should try what this guy's gonna give me because I never met the guy before, right? So I'm like, is this guy gonna poison me? Like he gave me a bottle and I'm like, he's like, drink it. I'm like, what do you mean drinking? Right? So, but after I drank it, he brought out a Bible and I'm like, whoa, like this is not what I expected. And he's like, every day you drink your herbs, you must pray over your herbs. Every time you deal with plant medicine, you have to pray over the herbs. And he brought this to my attention, and he also said that every day, throughout the day, you need to have some form of tea or something that will neutralize whatever poison. There was nowhere that man went without a bottle of his herbs in his hand. And he was about 65 years old at the time, so he had some knowledge, right? So you want to avoid drinking cold drinks. You want to purify your water with herbs. So lemon water is great. Neem can be good as well. Nettles is good too, and Nettles is a local herb that grows around, so there's plenty of it in the summer. Eat once per day to avoid degenerative diseases. So everything we were taught from the Canada's food guide was a lie. So to be honest, the reason a lot of us are sick is because we followed that protocol, have a well-balanced diet of all these harmful foods. Because when you look at it, the body is actually not supposed to eat certain foods in combination. So fruits and starches should never be mixed together. That's a direct way to harm the digestive system and cause fermentation and cause gas and all these things, right? They also say protein shouldn't be mixed together. Obviously, we tend to have a diet that is majority chicken, rice, potatoes, things like that. But we got to keep in mind, if we're dealing with a health issue, we got to eat in a way where it's causing the least amount of stress on our digestive system. So we got to keep that in mind, that we got to eat simple meals. Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Starches. So what's the take on starches? 'Cause, I generally hear that starches are not a good thing.
Well, the thing about starches is they actually, because it's like purely sugar, that's what it turns into. Too much of it is not a good thing. And that's what also causes a lot of yeast overgrowth, all these things. So I've heard you really want to limit to your starches to, less than 200, 100 grams a day. Obviously, they are the majority of what we're eating today, but we're in a society that is gluttonous and we're just constantly overeating. But if you go back home to the islands, the way certain ITAL people eat, the starches is the least of their meal. It's not the biggest portion, right? So you want to also avoid municipal water as it contains parasites and bacteria. I know we may not be able to see these things, but it is in them. And if you're dealing with a health issue, not only are you going to be exposed to these parasites, but you're also going to be exposed to the chlorine, the fluoride. You're going to be exposed to whatever other heavy metals they have put into the water. So you got to avoid it. I tend to drink distilled water, and what I do is I always add some form of lemon or tea, like nettles, to the water. So I personally, I can't drink water on its own anymore. I used to love drinking just water alone. Now my digestive system won't allow me to, because the body is looking for nutrients, it's looking to extract nutrients. Everything we consume should have some form of mineral or vitamin in it. Distilled water is technically, it's empty, it's dead water, right? So you have to remineralize your water. Does it flush you? Like, I'm used to it now, but I guess when you first start,
Because I was told that it doesn't have any minerals, but it tends to kind of decrease.
it does. However, from my experience, I haven't found any water that has been more beneficial than the distilled water, right? Like I went through the Kangen water series, the reverse osmosis, you obviously have the tap water, and none of these things seem to be effective, so.
Question.
Yeah.
Spring water and distilled.
Well, spring water is, they call it spring water, but yeah, I can't really say all the spring water is exactly how it was from the lake they took it from. I think a lot of times they add more minerals into it, but those might be in quantities that is not healthy for the body, right? And anything synthetic to a degree is not healthy for the body, right? So distilled, in my opinion, is the best because you can add the nutrients back to it. You can add the moringa, the nettle, the neem, the burdock. Like, you can be creative. You can be creative with it. So fast to reset your system. 2 to 3 day dry fast. For me personally, they have been the most effective for just helping the state of my mind and also to purge the body of certain toxins. Because what you see come out of the body after longer fast is mind-blowing, you know? Like, and it's very difficult once you start off, but you have to overcome the desire to eat and the desire to feed these demons. Yeah?
What's a dry fast?
Dry fast is no food, no water.
So what do you, so you just nothing?
You don't need anything.
Now, I know a brother that did a 7-day fast, and even when we watched the video, it's talking about how after a certain point, the body will start to self-prepare itself. But I know a brother that did a 7-day fast, and he said by the day 7, the amount of black stuff that was coming out of his lung, he was coming out of his mouth, and the body was detoxifying itself, and all of that was just coming out, and he saw it and verified it for himself. So it is beneficial, as he said, to do a dry fast, because as I said, I have people who bear witness that a lot of toxins just start coming out of them after that.
So, me personally, whenever I do something, I do it aggressively. However, that may not be wise if you're in a position where your health is severely compromised. So I've learned that when you're extremely ill, you actually want to get your body back to a state where you can at least endure the fast, right? Like, nutrients is important. If you're already nutrient deficient and you really can't, you know, you're like next to dead, you want to at least get yourself back up to a place where you feel comfortable doing the fast, and then challenge yourself. Start with the 1 day, 2 day, and then go for the 3 day, you know? Yeah.
You missed it. Could you speak about Nettle Detox? About that?
I briefly brought it up in the things that cause sickness, yeah, metal detox. So I can touch more on it afterwards if you like. So the next thing is drink nervines to combat stress.
Oh yeah?
Yep. Go ahead.
Hold on, could we kind of hold, let's say this last one, but we want to get through the presentation, then we'll deal with that after. Let's deal with that after.
All right, no problem. So drink nervines to combat stress. A nervine is something that works on the nervous system. So you will learn in herbal medicine that all stress is nervous system stress. They also have a patent from the government of America that allows them to alter the nervous system using handheld devices like your phone. So every day you pick up your phone, you're being exposed to a frequency that they can lawfully now alter your nervous system. And this is why a lot of people are always irritated, they have anxiety, they're stressed out. They're holding the weapon in their hand 24/7, but they don't realize, you know, this is where it's coming from. The next one, cleanse your colon regularly. Include enemas and colonics. So, has anyone heard of enemas, colonics? Anywhere? Yes? All right, so me personally, I was down the street from my house. There's a herb store there a couple years ago, and there was a gentleman in the store, and we just started talking about things. I went in and I'm like, hey, does anyone know about Morgellons? And he's like, oh yeah, I know all about that. And basically his story was he's been dealing with this for about 10 years. And he said he had lesions all over his body. He was covered in scars from head to toe, skin breakouts, all that stuff. So he basically got me into really taking colonics and enemas seriously, which is cleaning of the colon using water. Also, there's coffee enemas, which is a bit much stronger than just the water. However, in chronic cases, I also mentioned before, it can detoxify the liver, or it can enhance glutathione production by up to 600%. So when your body is not able to detoxify, it's important to get the liver working as well as the kidneys, because all the organs are working together. So include antiparasitic herbs, vedanga, neem, frankincense. So frankincense is noted in the Bible as one of the precious herbs that the 3 wise men brought to the baby Jesus.
Just wise.
Pardon?
Wise.
Yeah.
Not
Okay, not three wise men. Just the wise men, my bad.
Hey, brother, you're shy too.
Yeshaya, not Jesus. Yeshaya. Wrong terminology. Frankincense is the herb that the wise men brought to Yeshaya. All right? So, in my personal experience, frankincense is one of the best herbs to have on hands at all times. It is invaluable for getting rid of parasites, for increasing your immune system. It helps with detoxification in the blood. It helps with it helps with any kind of pain or inflammation in the body. So that's something I take at this point several times a week. And the last one is detox from heavy metals that cause blood toxicity. So the problem with 5G right now is that the heavy metals in the bloodstream, which were or could have been put in the blood through vaccines, the 5G towers actually mess with the heavy metals in the bloodstream. So the more heavy metal toxicity you have, the more likely it is that you're going to have a reaction being around these technologies. Right? So what do I consume daily for nutrition? So this has been something that has been a challenge over the years to understand what the body needs and what's something I can take regularly to keep myself from getting sick. Over the last several years, I've made it a goal to try new herbs every week. Whenever I get some money, I look up a new herb, I see what it does, and I try it, and I see how it affects my body. Some things have worked very well. Other things I probably took a little bit too much, but nonetheless, what I take every day is Nettle Leaf Tea. So this herb detoxifies the blood. It lowers blood pressure. It improves digestion. It reduces cancer risk. It strengthens the lungs. Increases fertility for women. It nourishes the mother and the fetus, so it can be taken for nursing mothers. It eases leg cramps and other spasms. It diminishes pain during and after birth, prevents hemorrhages after birth, and reduces hemorrhoids. So it is said to have more chlorophyll than any other herb. And the difference between chlorophyll and our blood is actually one molecule, and that is iron. So chlorophyll has magnesium, our blood has iron. So it's just that one difference. So it's said to have more chlorophyll than any other herb. The list of vitamins and minerals in this herb includes nearly everyone known that is necessary for human health and growth. Vitamins A, C, D, and K, calcium, potassium, phosphorus, iron, sulfur, iron and sulfur are particularly abundant in nettles. And that concludes the presentation. So if anyone has any questions, now that we're at the end, Brother Sal, did you get the? Okay. So, like I said, the reason everyone wrote their name on the piece of paper was to do a draw, a raffle.
Hold on, before we do the raffle, can I just say this?
We just have someone that is trying to get their car out, and you guys know how that can be difficult at times. So if you drive a Hyundai, license plates BXBJ406, please, they can use your assistance just to get out and be able to move their car. Sorry about that, bro.
Oh, it's you, NDT? NDT is you?
Your prize will be here when you get back.
All right, so we decided to do a raffle because we wanted to make this fun for the family. So I'm gonna pick 3 names out of the basket or the bag, and we're gonna see who gets the lucky prize. Yeah.
What's the prize?
You'll see it. Whoever gets it.
It can be something that's health beneficial based on the topic.
Something thematic, yeah.
So Shanna and also Farina.
Farina.
Soshi.
Sister Soshi.
She gets the first one. There's 3 prizes, so just bear with us.
Shake up that properly, man.
Our people in
Make sure, hey. I'm gonna say, take that back and say.
I know it's their ministry.
Brother Omar, yes, thank you.
Jackie, Sister Jackie.
So you said it wrong. You said it wrong.
And the last one goes to? Oh, Gurleen?
Sister Gurleen.
She here? If you're not here, you can't claim the prize, though. Oh, okay. No? Next one?
Yeah, she's here, she's here.
She missed it?
I was about to call it for you. Yeah, right? How come no brothers want?
I don't know, but so what I wanted to do, my whole intention of this presentation was to give us a better, not necessarily an understanding, but also have the confidence that we can overcome whatever we're dealing with. So like I said in the beginning of the presentation, I was also dealing with a lot of health issues that debilitated me for a very long time. And there was times where I thought there was no way I was going to get out of this. And what I eventually had to do was just keep praying. Every night, just keep praying. I had to adjust my prayers. I think that's something that, it's like sometimes you can find yourself praying the same way for a long time, but you have to become creative with how you pray. You gotta not only pray for what you want, but you gotta pray for what you already have. You also got to repent of all the things you've done in the past and identify any strongholds that may have been set up through generational curses, along with any kind of spiritual attacks that you may still be fighting in your family, because they also affect your ability to heal yourself and go forward. So if anyone has any questions, I want you to ask as many questions as you have. Just a minute. And even I also want you guys to know, like, there's nothing that we're dealing with that someone else hasn't already gone through. So don't feel like what you're dealing with is just personal. We can tend to own our problem as if we're the only ones dealing with it, but you should know that this is a body and we're all dealing with the same kind of challenges, the same kind of sicknesses. So if you ever need to reach out to someone and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, can you help me? Can you give me some support? Can you show me what way I can get out of this? I want you guys to know that we're here to support you for everything. So, the system, they failed us for so long, and we know at this point we can't trust them. They're doing everything in their power to put us in a corner to where we feel like they're the only place we can depend on. But I'm letting you know, the Most High and Christ is the only one we can depend on. So just keep that in mind, all right? Yep. Well, the thing about cleansing is, I don't really think cleansing the body quickly is right for everybody. I think you got to identify. Don't worry, we're gonna get to that. What I mean by cleaning the body quickly, I'm saying, in the past, I used to try and cleanse as quickly as possible. It's like, okay, I know I don't feel well, let me just get over this tomorrow. So I'd take a bunch of things and then I'd feel even worse for the next 2 weeks. So what I do now is a more calculated cleanse to where it's more effective, but I'm not just throwing things at my body expecting it to just work randomly. Like, everything is calculated. So you have to know what your problem is in the first place in order to heal it, right? So if you know you're dealing with digestive issue, or you know you're dealing with blood issue, you know, blood, you want to deal with the kidneys. Digestion, you want to deal with the colon. Brain issues, you want to deal with the colon as well, because a lot of mental illness is actually stemming from digestive problems. So you got to know the correlation between your sickness and what other part of the body is affected by it.
She's here, so she's
Yeah, yeah.
Black cells are rebuilding, and everything is wherever the toxins are getting out. So it's very good. How I just said, it's very good to do the 3-day fast. It's very beneficial for our body.
Yeah, fasting, honestly, fasting is, I'll tell you, I know before I even got into the truth or any of that, I mean, probably shortly right after, but I just started fasting randomly. Like, I didn't know what the benefits would be, but I knew it was, whatever I was dealing with required fasting. So, you know, at one point I would be fasting like twice a week, every Tuesday, every Friday, like just clockwork. Now, I think fasting is something where it can become challenging throughout your life, because when you get comfortable, you're like, all right, I'm doing well, like I don't need to fast. So then you'll just kind of, you know, you'll slack off a bit. But we got to force ourselves to get back into fasting regularly so that we're not getting too comfortable in the flesh. You know what I mean?
You said something about like pulling the blood like that. We don't regenerate our blood over time?
Okay, we do regenerate our blood over time, but what I'm saying is any amount of blood that's taken from the body, especially in the doses that the doctors have been taking it, leads to anemia, right? So people, they may not realize, yeah, okay, we have a lot of blood, but they're taking like vials and vials of blood. If they were to keep taking blood, you would be dead. So they're taking your life force from you. So every time you go to the doctor for a one blood test, you're gonna come back feeling more lightheaded, more, you know, lethargic, because they're taking your blood. So, you know, like, obviously you want to know what's going on, but however, there's ways to identify what's going on without taking your blood. You know, just a quick observation. I tend to ask people, okay, what are your symptoms? What are you dealing with? What have you been eating? What are your stressors like? What kind of sin are you engaged in? Because you can find out all that information without taking any blood tests, right? Any other questions? No? Pretty good?
That's it.
Hmm.
I'm not sure how specifically about that, but the metals in there, like, can you elaborate a little bit on it?
Yeah, the 5G thing is, so when we have heavy metal toxicity in the bloodstream,
Something about sleeping as well, right?
the 5G?
Yeah.
Well, sleep, that's actually in the pamphlet, but sleep disturbances could be due to kidney deficiency. So, I guess from a nutritional standpoint, then the weakness will lead to, you know, having nightmares, having cold sweats, having fear, a lot of fear. A lot of people are dealing with fear. And I told you, our people are dealing with kidney disease 50% at a 50% higher rate than our white counterparts. So it is affecting our people more than everyone else. So we have to deal with the kidney issues severely because this is like plaguing our communities. High blood pressure. Every family has at least one person with it, right?
It's like sleepless, like actually,
Insomnia.
yeah.
You have insomnia? Or you know someone you...
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
That depends on what I know what if I eat anything that could drink any caffeine.
Yeah, I don't drink no caffeine, no... Like I actually take, Nervines would also be good for sleep problems because they not only just work on your nervous system, but they help your body to actually relax and calm down. And when the mind is over like thinking too much, then that causes a lot of stress and your body can't heal, you know? So if you can't sleep, that means your body can't heal because, you know, that's where the majority of your healing comes from, is being able to sleep. So if you're dealing with any kind of sleep issues, you're waking up in the middle of the night. Like I said, I was waking up in the middle of the night for a long time, and it was no wonder why there was no healing. And then eventually I looked at a video that said, sleep is more important than your diet. And then it's got me thinking like, okay, maybe I shouldn't just be focusing on what I'm eating. I should be focusing on getting to sleep on time or getting to sleep in 8 hours of sleep, well rested, you know? Any other questions? Omar, any questions?
Yeah, so I just really wanted to get, a sister or patients that said for the detox for the metals in your body. I think I'm very, very interested in learning how to do that.
Yeah, so I mentioned this gentleman I met at the health food store. He got me into colonics, but also he got me into heavy metal detoxes as well. So there's a unit I bought off him.
Okay.
Last year I was using it for months at a time, like every single day. And these would pull the heavy metals out of my feet.
Correct.
Or actually I would do my hands as well because the heavy metals could be in your hands too. They tend to accumulate in the lower extremities. So I mentioned I had swollen feet for like, 6 months, actually longer than that, like years. And my shoe size went from a 10 to 11 and a half. So when the kidneys can't filter these toxins, the kidneys also dictates the water balance in the body. So people who tend to hold a lot of water, there's likely to be a kidney deficiency to where their body can't get rid of that water, right? And they'll pool up in your hands or in your feet. Even in the knees. A lot of, like gout, a lot of people have these limb problems, right? And it could be related to a kidney problem.
Okay, so where do you have the name for that
Yeah, I can show you afterwards, and yeah, man. But I personally, heavy metal detoxes. Honestly, there were days I'd go outside, and I would just feel the chemtrails almost immediately. Like when your body's sensitive, you could be outside for like 10 minutes, and then boom, you're just like, I can't take it. I'm done. I gotta go, and I'm gonna be sick. And eventually, like, I'm glad I met this gentleman because he went through that and he was able to show me, okay, this is how you do this is how you do that. And in turn, I was able to show him more about the herbal side. He has sleep issues, and even, like they say, wet dreams is a kidney deficiency issue as well. So people who have that problem, they need to address their kidneys, right?
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
When you get, it's like lump. When you get lump in your body.
Where? Like just like
Sometimes
like a swelling or?
Yeah, sometimes they say it's like some fat tissue. Fat, yeah, it's build up in underneath of your skin. So yeah. But
So
it's like hard to get rid of that. Like,
not an ulcer. You're just talking like a lump or something.
yeah, that's a I like pebbles.
Oh, like a skin tag. A skin tag? Talking about skin tag?
Brother Paul, I think I may be wrong, but I think what she's talking about, especially with women, we tend to get like lumps like in the lymphatic
Oh, the lymphatic system. Oh man, that's something. Honestly, that's the most or the least talked about thing aside from parasites in the health industry is lymphatic health. And that's one area where I was completely ignorant of. and realize, okay, it's not just the blood that becomes toxic, it's the lymph, because the lymph is actually what detoxifies your skin and your body. Like it, I mean, obviously all the organs work together, but when the lymph is not working, it will actually cause, you know, blockages in certain parts of your body, like your arms, your behind your back, and you know, your lymph nodes. Like they're everywhere throughout the body, so they can be anywhere, right? And so you want to take, for any kind of lymphatic stagnation, you want to take cleavers, burdock, red root, echinacea. Formulas, in my opinion, work best because they can work on a variety of different parts of the body at one time. But there's plenty of herbs that are also local that help any stagnation, because especially after the winter, our bodies are so like, all the toxins that have been built up are just sitting still and not moving, and then the joints get hard and they just hurt, you know? And you can't move your legs sometimes, and you really have to stretch, and that's a lymphatic issue, right? So you want to keep your lymphatic flowing at all times, and that's why it's important to constantly drink the teas that can just cleanse you out, so that there's no buildup of anything. You know, as the moment there becomes a stagnation issue, buildup, things aren't flowing, that's when sickness sets in, and you know, that's where the problem comes.
Are you familiar with Dr. Halder Clark?
Yeah, she has a website and sells parasite cleanses too.
Not so much about the parasite cleanses, but like the zapper.
Yes, the zapper.
I don't know, I think she calls it spectrometer.
Yeah. Brother Michael was, we were speaking about it earlier.
Yeah, I have one.
How have you found it to work? Phenomenally, or it's not, it's so-so?
No, it's good. It's good. And then a colloidal silver gold. Can you talk about that?
No, I didn't talk about that myself. So what have you found from the zapper? Does like, because what I feel is these technologies are phenomenal. However, when we no longer have access to these luxuries, you know, electricity, all these things, how are we going to sustain in the wilderness?
Well, this one that's made, I'll show it to you and then you'll understand.
Is it
Actually, it's a really good one.
is it electricity based, or?
Yes, but it's really good. Like the way that this guy designed it.
No, I'm open to it. I also met another gentleman. He said when he went to India, he was given a machine that was worth upwards of like $100,000, and it was able to identify certain areas in the body that had a blockage and fix it, right? Certain things though, like, I don't know if it may be too much to get into, because I mean, the body is very complex, but it requires a specific healing method, right? So if the Most High wants us to heal through having more faith in Him, if we just get a quick fix, how is that going to lead us to actually seeking Him more, right? We're just going to be like, oh, I'm better, like, okay, I'm on my way, I don't need Him anymore, right?
No, I agree. I wouldn't call it a quick fix, but it'd be just to add
To the protocol, yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
I agree,
Right?
I agree. But you know what I mean, like sometimes these they put things out there that can make you think, oh, this is it, like, that's all I need, and then you use it doesn't do anything, and you're like, okay, well, why just spend all this money and I'm still in the same position?
Got it, yeah.